Hello, Natroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So, today we're going to be looking at expanding upon something that, well, first let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, we're going to be looking at detecting edges, because we talked about it a few episodes back when we had Chris Charlton on. We had talked about, needing edge detection for temporal, or to try and preserve the edges of eyes and things like that. And it got me thinking about things. And we tried using the built-in Natron one. And anyway, I didn't want to go over and rehash everything that we went through over in that episode. If you haven't seen it, go back, watch it, and, you'll be caught up. But it got me, I was actually not originally, when I started doing it, or came up with this idea that I have for today's episode, I was not originally intending to do that. I was actually looking to just do I was in the process of making a normal map that I was going to use. And then it occurred to me that, hey, normal map, wait a minute, we might be able to take a normal map and turn it into an edge detection. And I was like, I wonder if that's possible. And so I started playing around, and sure enough, that's what today's topic's going to be. So, first thing we need to do is we need to talk about today's source. So today's source, what I recommend is people need to go and pick up this. This is the image that I'm going to be using today. So if you want to follow along, you need to go download this. And with once we have that, we can go over to Natron. Now, I've already got it into Natron, and the first thing we notice here is that it is a huge image. I just took it and I dragged it directly in from my project file. And this is just too big for standard operation. And if you do this, you're also going to probably realize that your output format's going to change. I already switched it back, and there's some noise coming from the other room. That is our washing machine tends to get a wee bit crazy and makes a lot of noise, and we're right at that noisy point in its cycle. Anyway, it should be stopping within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Anyhow, we're going to just ignore all that in the background. Anyhow, or at least we're going to try. Anyhow, as I was saying, the output format is, we want to switch it from what it's going to switch it to, which is going to be 4752 by 3000. We're going to switch it back, so we hit S to bring up our properties. We switch it to HD by selecting here. It's going to be down here. You're just going to go up to HD, and that will get our project back to the correct size. So if we decide to render this out, we have access, and it's unlikely we're going to do it, but it's a good habit to get into. Anyhow, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to obviously resize this, because so we're going to use a resize, or actually, you know what? Not resize. I'm going to use a reformat. Reformat? No. What the heck? We're going to use resize. I should have just stuck with it. Boop. Hit undo. Bring it back. We'll go here. Let's go to format, and we'll set the format to HD, not to 20 by 1080. There we go. We've got it resized. It's already there. It's good enough. And it should fit by default. Let me just see something here. I want to make sure of one thing. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do a reformat, because the one thing we don't want to do is I don't want it scaling this around. I want to keep it, so reformat won't scale it. It suddenly dawned on me that might be, see how this didn't scale? It's keeping its width, or it's scaling it to the width, but keeping its proportion. So we want to set it to HD so that it's there. That should keep it at its proper proportions relative to its width. Anything that's off will get clipped at the top and bottom. That way it's clean. I'm not going to worry about anything more than that. That's where we want to keep it. All right. So the first thing we need to do is, of course, we need to look at what we already have. So I mentioned that we already have an edge detect inside of Natron. It's right here, edge detect. And when we do this, it comes up with this thing called tensor. And tensor is the style. That's the how it's treating all the different channels to make this edge detection, or I'll call it it's a pretty nice edge detection. It's pretty good, but it has a lot of gets a lot of stuff that we don't always need. And for a lot of the type of things that I think of, that we want to get edges on, we don't want all this sub inner stuff. And I'd also like to get this, so for something like an eye, you want to clean this up a bit so that you hopefully don't get all this nitty gritty inside. We could refine it in some way and just get the outside hard lines, so forth. It's not guaranteed, but anyway, that was part of the hope of this. I'm not going to say it's going to actually do it. We're going to try it. But one of the things that we have here, in order to control this, all we really can do is we can blur it a bit, which makes it bigger and blurs it out, so to speak. So it widens it, and then we can erode it, which we can, or dilate it even, So here, let's pull this back down to I think 0. Yes. So we can take it in a negative and dilate it, or we can erode it in, which can be interesting, but it doesn't change it. It's stuck. What we get for a result is what we get. So all those bits in here are in here by default with this method, and it's just a lot of extra stuff. I mean, we can get rid of it. We can get rid of it to a degree. We can sit here and we can put a clamp in here, and we can chuck a clamp in, and I'm just going to do this. We're going to clamp it, and we're going to probably, I think we want to bring, we're going to bring up a minimum, I believe. Whoops, too much. We want to bring that back down until we get something in here. And we can see, it does a pretty good job. We can bring it up just a little. If we bring it up too far, we wind up, taking away too much. But we wind up with something around here, and then we can bring this down, and when we bring this down, eventually we start bringing this up, and there we go. That would be an edge detection, using the tensor that gets us to this point. And this is pretty nice, pretty simple, and so forth. But it was, as I was saying earlier, one of the things we want to do is try and see if we can come up with something different. All right, this was just something that occurred to me, because so if you remember back in episode 39, we did this. We created this lovely little thing, and or at least I believe this is the one from episode 39. I'll have it. That's what I had it listed as. Anyway, episode 39, we created this embossing, and where we were playing around with trying to relight things from different directions. And this is very important because we use this SEEXPR node to decide what direction things were going. And we're going to do the same thing because we want to change how the direction the quote light is coming from because of how this is going to work. So what we're going to do is select from here down to here and include that. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to hit Control C to copy it. And I'm going to go switch projects back to my other one right here. And we're going to paste that right in here so that we all have it right. Don't want to move that. So we have this. Let's move this to the side a little bit here. I'm just going to, I don't want it to occupy too much. And we'll, of course, look at the STM map. And we're going to go here and we're going to just take a look at what this does to this. So this is what it comes up with. All right. So you're saying to yourself, okay, we've bumped it. We've taken it and we've turned it into a bump. But this isn't just a bump. This is actually what it's doing is we can see here that we have edges. We're detecting the bump. The edges of the bump are actually a type of edge detection. We have black edges here, and we have white edges here, and then we have this gray around the around the middle of it. And don't worry about that. That's just a refresh. Oh, Natron, sometimes you can be a pain. Anyway, not going to worry. It's operating within expected parameters. So the question becomes, how can we take what we see here and turn it into something more useful for our edge detection? And what I was realizing is that we have this is already working in one direction, or at least I believe it is. This is working off of the way this is working is we're multiplying with the SEEXPR, multiplying a color value against the color source, which is our UV map, which if we look up here, just for people who may need a refresher on this, we're taking this in and we're using the two blur directions here that, you know, go in the deviation order. And then we merge it into the individual channels to create a UV map. Then we multiply it to like soup it up super duper bright, which really we don't. Well, anyway, then we go into the SEEXPR and do basically relight it, because we're taking the UV map and we're applying light from a specific UV direction. And that and while it doesn't look at here, what we're doing is then we tame it down. It's kind of hard. It doesn't even look like it's doing anything. But when we take that and we apply this toned down version of this UV map to this STM map, what it does is it's applying it to this grayscale. Okay, so we have this grayscale. We're multiplying the grayscale up because there was math in a go of this in the previous one. We need to get the value up because of where it's starting. We're taking it from 50% gray, and we want the result to be 50% gray as well. And in order to get that, we have to multiply it and brighten it up a certain amount of times in order to get it to, when it applies to the STM map, we can see that the value, this gray value, stays uniform. And that's all talked in the other. This is just refresher. So that gets us to this point, all right? So we've done this in the past. This is where we're starting with this. So we're going to take this and we're going to try and reapply this, or we're going to try and look at this as edges. This is going to be an edge detect. So how can we take this and turn it into an edge detect? Well, I think the easiest way is we're going to merge it with itself. And the way we're going to merge it is we're going to just take the base and we're going to make this merge node here. And the only thing I'm going to worry about out of this is either the brightest of bright points or the darkest of dark points. All right. So we want the maximums and the minimums. And we're going to be using two different versions, or actually we're going to be using 4 different versions of this same thing, because what we want to do is currently this is coming from above right now. We have this, it's color 1 times CS, or at least I think it's 1. Actually, it isn't 1. It was a little off of 1. So we're going to set color 1, the red, to 0. So we're basically just doing green is set to 1, which means this is completely coming from -1 is from above. So the light is above it and it's coming down across this. If we set this to from -1 to +1, it should reverse it in the opposite direction, or well, it makes it look like it's actually recessed because of how we were just talking about it. If the light's coming from but it's actually in this case the light would be coming from the bottom, and it's an optical illusion because we had already established it one way. Anyway, but we don't have to modify this. We can, let's put it back to our -1 so that it's where we started. Because the way we're going to do this, the way we're going to get this is we're going to just add it over here off to the side a little bit. I clicked over here in this empty space, and I'm going to hit tab and I'm going to put an invert. and just invert this STM map, because that should give us the exact same result. So I don't have to to add it again. So there we go. It's overlaying it currently on top of it with alpha and everything, and we're not worried about that because whoops, I meant it's over here. It's doing alpha and everything, and it's taking that into account, and yeah, we don't worry about it. What we're going to be doing is we're actually concerned only about the maximum, because we want the whites, okay? And when I go to maximum, it's going to get the brightest points from the normal one and the brightest points from the inverted one, which is the opposite direction. It's going to invert it, and it's going to give us this. Now, this is pretty good, but I think we can get better edges. We've got edges right now. It's edged to gray. In fact, we might even be able to drop this so that it edges fully. Well, I don't know. Let's see. If we take that down to 0, no, that doesn't. What if we take this up to 1? No, that really doesn't work either. We really need to keep it at the halfway point to get this to function at all. I was just curious, because I hadn't tried that earlier. Again, this is an open exploration, just so people know. We're exploring this. I haven't tried everything. I'm exploring things because I just did the basic thing. All right, so how are we going to get this from the other angle? Well, we have to basically duplicate this SEEXPR node a second time. So we're just going to copy it over here, and we're going to connect it up so that the one input goes to this multiply. And then in here, instead of the color parameters being -1 on the green, let's go back over here. In fact, you know what? We just need to, for right now, I'm going to remove that because I didn't want that actually. I want to copy all of those from there to there. And for this, we want to set our source to the same source. All right. So we're still using, this multiplied gray as a source to both images. Of course, this one doesn't have anything in it. Let's connect it up here. So this should, at this point, result in the exact same thing, right? Okay, so here we have our second one. So this is the one, this branch over here is going to be our side to side. So we're going to change this SEEXPR so that its color parameter, instead of being -1 on green, we're going to 0 the green, and we're going to say it's -1 on the red. And when we go to -1 on the red, we wind up getting it in one direction. It doesn't matter which direction. In this case, it's working from the right to the left. You know what? I kind of like working just because I think of upper left as being my default. I'm going to switch it back so that it's 1. There we go. Now it's going from left to right. And then what we'll do is do an invert here. Whoops, I had an invert. Oh, well, I'll just do IN the invert. There we go. We've got the invert of it. And then we take those. If we go back to our merge here, we can take the A2, connect it up to the STM map, which gives us more detail over here on the right, and then take A3, connect it up to the invert map, and we get that. And lo and behold, right here, we have a pure edge detect. We just built an edge detect using a normal map. That's cool. The problem is it's obviously grayscale, or I should say it's middle gray for the background, and we really don't want to do that. So the best way to handle that at this point is to clamp it. And by the way, we clamped the other one over here. In fact, no, we're going to create a new clamp. Just clamp it. That could have been a bad joke, actually. And we're, of course, going to min-max it, and then we're going to take I think we want to take, you know what? The easiest thing to do is just take the minimum up to 1 and the maximum down to 0. If we take the minimum up to 1, the maximum down to 0, I would think it should have given us something. Doesn't look like it's giving me what I wanted. Well, now that is interesting. That is not what I expected. let me just check. I'll have my one over here. Now we have a different result, and I'm trying to figure out why. This should have given us, well, inconsistencies is one of those things that we expect of Natron sometimes. Oh, that's interesting. Now it's doing it in my other one. My original one where this was working. There's no reason this shouldn't work in my mind. All right, let's try tuning down our clamp. See, we're getting stuff. Wait a minute, we are getting things. All right, well, the key thing here is that we can bring down, if we bring down this maximum, or the minimum, excuse me, not the maximum, we can move or change how, and I mentioned this in the description, that we can, the thing that's nice about this is we're changing our sample area. This is something that we can't do with the tensor method. This is allowing us, by dropping this down, we're basically setting the start point for where that edge detection is actually occurring. And now we could, in theory, do something similar over here with the clamp. We could try that with this, but I don't know that it's actually, it's working to a degree. It's not quite the same. For anybody who doesn't understand what's going on here, when we're changing this, we're actually, it's doing something similar, but it isn't. Let me try and get this back down. All right, let's try and, when we bring this down to this point, all right, let's try and bring this down to 0, all right, or close to 0. So we're getting something here, we're getting stuff, but we got all this garbage in here, and I'm just trying to see if I pull this up, can we get it? We're getting something similar. All right. Again, I did this very quickly, so I have not explored this as much as I would like, but I believe, whoops, we can take this. Why am I in the wrong thing? Oh, I'm not working on the wrong clamp. I was working on the other clamp. There we go. 8. Let's pull this down. This is a lot easier to manipulate. It's also, we can, when we pull it down and up, this is automatically keeping it at its extremes. We can see that we automatically get, we're not having to worry about everything in this is automatically getting clamped to white, which means we wind up with this beautiful edge detect, which can be used for a mask. If we want more than this, I like working with like pure colors or pure values when I'm doing things. The nice thing about this is we're getting everything pure. Now, if I wanted to restrict this, what I would do is I'd simply go back in, like I have in the past. Everybody knows one of my favorite things is the Erode Smooth. Plop that Erode Smooth in here, put this up to like 2, and then we take this back down to 1, and lo and behold, we can get something that's a bit more, you know, might want to take this down actually below that. We might bring it down just enough so that we start to see, we need the erode to be just enough to give it a little bit of detail if we wanted it, and we can get a nice edge detect that way as well. So, excuse me, I've got a wee bit of an itch on my forehead. Oh, that was just bothering me. I think my hat got a burn. It's just, oh, anyway. So right, that's pretty much, that's kind of where I was going with this. So what can we do with this? There's other things we could do with this. The other thing we haven't actually explored here, and it's really bothering me that Natron's, you know, breaking that right there. So I'm going to just break this at that point and have it redraw the entire chain, and it should fix those type of errors. If you ever have a situation where Natron doesn't draw a block, just go back to your source, break it at the source, reconnect it, and it will redraw it properly. Because this refresh button, it only refreshes it for that. It doesn't actually update the cache. If you want the cache to update, you have to actually break it at the source, which is what we just did. All right, so anyway, back to this. One of the things I wanted to bring up also about this is that we can take the operator here. Remember, this is operating on this from the standpoint that we want the maximum. Well, what if we want to take this and do the minimum? Then we wind up with this, and we go back to our clamp, and we can stop playing with our clamp values. Let's return this to 1. Oh, no, we want the minimum to be 0. Maximum is going to be 1. And we wind up with this. And actually, that looks a lot like... Oh, wait. Let's go back here. All right, so that's our base. It's looking the exact same. So let's just take this down. Does that do anything? All right, if we bring it down, that does some interesting stuff there. I got no idea. I played with this idea of doing... Oh, that's not quite where I was. Oh, wait, we want this at 0.5. Right. No, 5? Wait a minute. Something's weird. All right. Oh, that's what's going on. There we go. Right. There we go. All right. This needed to be 5.4. There we go. All right. Sorry. I was trying to figure out that. All right. So we can do the invert. We can get an inverted version of this, which is also kind of cool. Might be useful in a different way if you're looking to get white areas. There was another thing I had done with this that I thought was cool. I thought at the time, if I can remember how I did it, which was I got this one where I had... Well, anyway, we can let's go back. Let's get out of the... Let's reset the clamp. Actually, let's reset this to its default, and go back to the merge, and we could play with this. Let's try a top, which changes it. No, average. Interesting. Could do color burn. You know, how we combine these could potentially come up with an interesting thing. I think that maximum and minimum are going to be our best options for getting a an edge detect. This is going to give us... It is an edge detection. But I had done... I'm really... There was a thing where I got this wonderful little source where it was like I created these ponds and so forth, but I forget exactly what I had done for the combiner, or for combining it all together. Anyhow, so that's really... You know what? We might try one more thing that I didn't plan on originally. I'm going to... Let me go over here. I'm going to go into my videos. I'll be back in the main window in a minute. I want to go over here. I want to pull up the footage that we had looked at the other day. I'm just curious. I think this was the footage. All right. So let's put that there. Hit that. And I'm just going to... Yeah, we're going to just do quickly... We're going to take this and crank up its exposure, maximize its exposure, and then multiply. People probably should remember this from the other day, from when Chris Charlton was on. All right, we brought it up. I think this is about where we were. It doesn't matter. And let's just see. I'm just curious. How well will this work with this method? If we just take it. Now, mind you, I haven't denoised this in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just curious what we wind up with this result. Oh, yes, and we need to set this to 1 and this to 0. And then we want to bring this back down. Wait a minute. Something weird's going on here. Wait a minute. Max, min. There we go. There we go. All right, so we bring this down. I'm just curious if we can actually maybe get those eyes into focus. Can we? Ooh, look at that. Oh, that's just chaos. It was just a curiosity if we could maybe get those eyes in. See, the thing that's nice about this is that we're able to dial it back and we're introducing a little bit more with every one, which is something we weren't able to do before. Now, what we could also do is we could do a comparison where I take this clamp and add a second clamp with this set at a different level and then do some form of noise comparison. I'm wondering if the... No, I don't think that will work. We might be able to do something where we say we have these things and we want to use them as like subtract them from it to get rid of certain details that we don't want. But no, we're not able. We're not going to get those eyes. Not going to get those eyes back in this. That's too bad. That would have been a great situation to do it. A lot of situations when you have good lighting, you want to emphasize the eyes because eyes are important. Now my eyes went blurry on me. So anyway, all right. So that was that. That's you can download this. Well, actually, I don't think you can download that, but it doesn't matter. This isn't that hard. To make this isn't that hard. So people can make this using the techniques from the other video. And I think that was it. So it's a pretty short episode, but oh, and I've adjusted the volume. I've got it all back. So right. Thanks for watching. Keep on Natroning.